to this worrying story. Now, South Africans are using money they don't have to make ends meet. The National Credit Regulator says it's noted an increase in credit extensions, and stats for the first quarter showed that the total value of new credit granted increased more than 5% to an amount of just over 134 billion rand. Manager and statistics researcher at the National Credit Regulator, Nwako Mabiba, is here to unpack those figures for us. Mr. Mabiba, thank you very much for making the time. It's no secret we are a nation that lives on credit, but perhaps my question to you that I want to open this discussion with is, are people overextending themselves on good credit, or is it bad credit?
Good morning, Toli. Just a little correction. We have actually released statistics for the quarter ended, for the second quarter ended June. And indeed, the regulator remains very concerned, because we have, for the second quarter, actually, I would say the past few quarters, noted an increase, especially in personal loans, particularly unsecured, which is generally used for consumption rather than for asset building. So the other one that we are really concerned is credit facilities. We've seen a serious spike in usage, and I would say usage for credit facilities. So that remains a very serious concern for the regulator.
Let's make this conversation simpler for the viewers. What are people mainly buying? Yes, you've already spoken about unsecured loans.
The National Credit Regulator doesn't go into what people are actually buying because we regulate credit. So we're monitoring, I would say, the extension of credit, and we're seeing the spike, and I think that's where we're actually concerned. If money from credit providers hit the consumers' accounts, there's no telling what it's going to be used for. But we remain very concerned, especially when it goes to unsecured, because it can essentially be driven by consumption.
Before you tell us what the solutions or possible solutions are for the overextended debtors, creditors should also be exercising responsibility, and that's where you come in, because you have got to be that buffer.
Indeed, the National Credit Regulator has actually introduced, I would say, affordability regulation, where we're actually making sure that credit goes to consumers, but in an affordable way. All assessments are actually done to make sure that it's done responsibly. I would say we have 25 million odd credit consumers that are said to be active. About half of them, almost 40%, are said to be impaired, which means they are having at least one account actually lagging behind by more than 3 months. This picture is not that worse. When you look at the accounts, about 20 million of the 80 million accounts that we have are lagging behind. It remains a concern for the regulator. With regards to, I think what we advocate is living within your means. A good old budget. You budget, you monitor if you're actually varying from that budget, because there's no use doing a budget and deviating from it. You need to make sure that you check it and you remove all things that are, I would say, extravagant from that budget. Yeah. You have consumers having up to 3 funeral, I would say, covers. You only have one life. You can't have more than one life cover. I think those are some of the things that we could actually cut down to make sure that we live within our means.
So you've given us some solutions for the overextended consumer, but there's got to be consequences as well for creditors who extend credit to people who are already indebted. Surely they've got to come in for a slap.
Indeed. I think from the statistics, the regulator actually would be deep diving. This is one of the indicators where we would actually say from the statistics, compliance actually need to come in and actually deep dive on those consumers that might be irresponsible. We're not saying they were irresponsible, because the credit regulator has got a mandate to actually make sure that credit extended, but at the same time we need to make sure that it's extended.
Are you exercising your power, though?
Indeed.
To ensure that compliance?
Yes. Quite a number of credit providers have already been hauled over to the NCT. We've had consumer money being refunded, and there's quite a lot of things that that we've actually done to make sure that the consumer is getting the redress.
All right. Mr. Mwako Mabiba, thank you very much for making the time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
He is with the